Hello students, welcome back to Poonam's classroom. This is the second part of Biology chapter 1, that is Fundamental Unit of Life. And you all know that fundamental unit of life is nothing but cell. If you have not watched the first part yet, watch it and then watch this one for better understanding. In this video, I am going to talk about plasma membrane and the cell wall. Take a notebook and let's get started. Do you have any idea what is a cell made of? Basically, cell is a tiny mass of protoplasm which is surrounded by a membrane. So basically, a cell has one outer covering that is called the plasma membrane or the cell membrane, and inside is cytoplasm. And there is the brain of the cell, which is nothing but the nucleus. Within the cytoplasm, other cell organelles are present. So, this nucleus and cytoplasm together is called protoplasm, and the outer covering of the cell is called plasma membrane or cell membrane. In plants, on top of the plasma membrane, there is the cell wall. We will discuss about cell wall as well. I will try to keep my video short so that it's not too much to grasp in one day. So, what is plasma membrane? The outer, extremely delicate, elastic, membranous covering of the cell that separates the content of the cell from the external environment is called the plasma membrane or the cell membrane. So, if this is the surrounding and this is the cell, then the plasma membrane forms a boundary around the cell which separates it from its surrounding. It's like a house which separates us from the surrounding. But again, people need to enter the house for various purposes, like grocery is needed. Again, you need pizza to eat. With pizza, you need friends to party. After the pizza is finished, trash will come that has to go out. Again, mom-dad has to go out to work. So the door allows the entry and exit of different people and different things. Again, everything is not allowed. For example, thieves are not allowed inside the house, isn't it? So the doors allow the entry and exit of selective people. In the same way, plasma membrane needs to take food, water from the outside and also exit toxic things. Thus, plasma membrane also selectively allows things to enter and exit. So, it is called a selectively permeable membrane. Remember, it is very similar to semi-permeable membrane. A semi-permeable membrane is permeable to solvent but prevents the passage of solutes. In a selectively permeable membrane, it allows the passage of solvent and some selected solutes. Hope now you know why plasma membrane is called selectively permeable membrane, because it can select. Now let's see the structure of plasma membrane. Plasma membrane is a bilayer structure. That is, it is made up of two layers. In the layers, there are lipids, which are actually phospholipids. If we zoom them, they look like this with a head and two tails. The other structure present is the protein. So, the plasma membrane is made up of phospholipids and protein. They are 6 to 8 nanometer in thickness. And 1 nanometer is equal to 0.00001 millimeter. So you can understand how small is a plasma membrane. That's why we need a very powerful microscope like electron microscope to observe the structure of plasma membrane. Now let's see the function of plasma membrane. The two main functions of plasma membrane is to provide physical barrier and help in entry and exit of the substance, that is, it helps in transport. Now, the transport through plasma membrane can be of two types, which is active or passive. When any entry or exit within plasma membrane need expenditure of energy, then the transport is called active transport. Let's say your friend don't want to enter your house for some reason, so you push him inside. So you have to spend some energy. This is an example of active transport. On the other hand, if something enters or exits the plasma membrane without any expenditure of energy, then it is called passive transport. So in active transport, energy is required, while in passive transport, no energy is required. Now, passive transport can be of two types, diffusion and osmosis. Let's understand in details about diffusion and osmosis. So what is diffusion? Diffusion is the process of movement of substance which can be solid, liquid or gaseous from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration. That is, a substance moves where it is in high concentration to a region where it is in low concentration. Let's put some ink in the glass of water. First, the ink will be concentrated in one region and slowly it will move in the whole glass of water and we will see a uniform color. So here the movement of ink occurs from a region of higher concentration to a region of lower concentration for ink. Again, if we spray some room freshener in one part of the room, slowly the whole room will have the smell. So the scent has moved from one place where it is in higher concentration to other parts of the room where it is in low concentration or zero concentration. This is called diffusion. In cells, carbon dioxide increases as a cellular waste. So carbon dioxide is in higher concentration inside the cell compared to the environment. So what will happen? Any guess? Carbon dioxide will move out of the cell to the environment by the process of diffusion until an equilibrium is reached. Similarly, when level of oxygen decreases inside the cell, it will take the oxygen from the outside until equilibrium is reached. So the process of entry of oxygen and exit of carbon dioxide is done with the help of diffusion. In case of cells, there is a membrane in between. But remember, for diffusion, we do not need any membrane. It can occur without a membrane. And in diffusion, the substance moves, not the water. Thus, you can understand that diffusion plays a very important role in gaseous exchange between cells as well as cells and its external environment. In case of water, when movement of water molecules occur through a selectively permeable membrane from a region of water molecules higher concentration to a region of water molecules lower concentration, then it is called osmosis. That is, you can see in this figure that water is in higher concentration in the outside and water is in lower concentration inside the cell. So, water molecule will move from outside to inside through this selectively permeable membrane, and this process is called osmosis. So, osmosis is the movement of water molecules from its higher concentration to its lower concentration. So, osmosis is where a selectively permeable membrane is present which do not allow the solute to enter, only solvents enter. So, you know, right, that water is a solvent and the dissolved particles are the solute. So, basically water enters the cell via osmosis. Now, let's try to do an experiment. Take some raisins. In one bowl, take some plain water and add 1 or 2 raisins inside it. Keep it for 8 to 12 hours undisturbed. And what did you notice? Let's see what will happen if an animal cell or a plant cell is kept in a salt or sugar solution. It will behave in one of the 3 following ways depending on the concentration of the external solution. In the first situation, let's consider the external solution is dilute compared to the cell's internal water concentration. That is, water is more outside compared to inside the cell. Now, as water is more outside, so we all know that it will move from a region of its higher concentration to a region of its lower concentration. So, it will move inside the cell. Am I correct? So, as the cell will intake the water, it will swell. This phenomenon of entering water inside the cell is called endosmosis. Remember, water will enter and exit through the selectively permeable membrane, but the net effect is entry of water inside the cell, so the cell swells. And the solution in which the cell is kept has high water concentration. That means it is a dilute solution. This is called hypotonic solution. Hypo means below. So, if a cell is kept in a hypotonic solution, then endosmosis occurs. Plant cells have cell wall. I will talk about cell wall in few minutes. When plant cell swells, it is called turgid. The swelling process produces a pressure which is called turgor pressure. This opposes the entry of water inside the plant, and at a particular turgor pressure, entry of water into the plant cell is completely stopped. Now let's see situation 2, which is opposite. That is, the outside solution is highly concentrated. meaning that less water is present and more solute is present. Then concentration of water inside the cell is more, so water will again move out of the cell, as a result of which it will become shrinked. This process of moving water outside the cell is called exosmosis and the solution is called hypertonic. Hyper means excessive. So here you can understand, if we keep a cell in a hypertonic solution, exosmosis will occur and the cell will shrink because the concentration of water outside is less and the concentration of water inside the cell is more. So the water will try to go from inside to outside, from its higher concentration to its lower concentration. In plant cell, when shrinking of the protoplasm occurs, it will detach from the cell wall. This is called plasmolysis. In animal, the whole cell shrinks to give a wrinkled appearance and it is called crenation. Now let's talk about the third situation, when the outside solution and the inside solution have the same concentration. Then water will enter and exit at the same rate from both sides. So the cell wall will remain as it is. The solution is called isotonic solution. Iso means equal and there is no net movement of water. So students, is it clear what is meant by hypotonic, hypertonic and isotonic solution? Can you tell me when exosmosis occurs and when endosmosis occurs? So now you can also tell me the difference between diffusion and osmosis. Let's see the difference between diffusion and osmosis. Diffusion is the movement of substance from an area of higher concentration to an area of lower concentration. So this is the movement of substance. Remember, not water. But osmosis is the movement of water from an area of higher concentration to an area of lower concentration through a semi-permeable membrane. Diffusion takes place in solid, liquid and gases. Osmosis takes place only in liquid medium where water is there. Diffusion does not involve any semi-permeable membrane, but in case of cell, although semi-permeable membrane is present, it does not have any role in diffusion. Osmosis always requires a semi-permeable membrane. Now let's see some examples of osmosis. Unicellular freshwater organisms take water through osmosis. Absorption of water by plants is through osmosis. And I have told you before that gaseous exchange in cells occur through diffusion. So now you know that passive transport occurs through diffusion and osmosis, and it does not require any energy. And I have told you earlier that active transport requires energy, carrier protein, which with the help of energy make certain molecules to enter and exit the cell. Glucose amino acid pass through the plasma membrane by the process of active transport. There is another kind of transport called bulk transport. In this process, the cell membrane enables the cell to engulf in food and other materials from the environment. This process is called endocytosis. Remember, endoosmosis is the process where water enters the cell by the process of osmosis, and endocytosis is the process where a cell engulfs something foreign. Amoeba obtains its food through endocytosis. Like endocytosis, there is bulk expulsion of material as in secretion or excretion. This is called exocytosis. Exo always means exit and endo always means enter. Let's see the differences between active and passive transport, and let's see the functions which plasma membrane perform before we move into cell wall. In active transport, it requires energy, as we have told before. In passive transport, no energy is required. Active transport often occurs against concentration gradient. Passive transport always occurs along concentration gradient. That is, something moves from its higher concentration to its lower concentration. It requires ATP energized carrier protein. Carrier proteins have no role in this transport. The transport is highly selective. Passive transport is not so selective. Now let's see some functions of plasma membrane. It provides a definite shape to the semi-solid content of the cell. It functions as a mechanical barrier that protects the internal content of the cell. The membrane determines what substances are to be allowed to enter and exit the cell. The flexibility of membrane enables the cell to engulf food and other substances from its external environment by the process of endocytosis. There are some more functions, like it has substances over its surface which function as recognition centers and points of attachment. It helps in the process of osmosis. Now let's move to cell wall. Cell wall is a rigid, semi-elastic, transparent, supportive and protective but permeable covering present outside the plasma membrane in plants, fungi, some protists and prokaryotes. So it is present outside the plasma membrane in plants mainly. Let's consider this plant cell. You can see I have marked the plasma membrane. The yellow solid line is the cell wall. But remember, cell wall is not continuous. In plant cell wall is mainly made up of cellulose. There is something called the middle lamella, which is a layer that cements together the cell walls of the adjoining plant cells. It cements the cell together and contains pectin, which are also used as gelling agent in food. The unique feature of a plant cell is that they are interconnected by tiny cytoplasmic channels called plasmodesmata. So, what are the functions of a cell wall? Firstly, it provides shape to the cell. Secondly, it provides mechanical strength to the plant. Third, it protects the cell from pathogen and mechanical injury. Fourth, it prevents the bursting of the cell due to endosmosis. We have seen before that it produces turgor pressure, which stops the process of endosmosis. Now you know about both cell membrane and cell wall. Can you tell me the difference between them? Cell wall is present in plant cell. Cell membrane is present in both plant cell and animal cell. Cell wall is present outside the cell. Cell membrane lies outside of the animal cell and inner to the cell wall in plant cell. It is rigid and quite thick. It is flexible and thin. That's why the tree wood or bark is so hard, but our skin is much more flexible because our skin, that is animal cell, do not have cell wall, but plant cell, which is the bark and everything, has the cell wall. It is composed of cellulose, hemicellulose and pectin. Cell membrane is made of lipids, protein and few carbohydrates. It protects and gives strength to the cell. It holds the cellular content and control passage of material. Let's stop here for today. I will talk about the cell organelle in my next video. But before you leave, please do me a favor. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button and share with your friends. And please subscribe for more such videos. See you in the next video. Thank you.